through some of the cool things that are in the XRM Toolbox that I use on a pretty regular basis. There's a lot of tools as we'll get into. So a couple announcements before we get out of the way. As PowerPoint dies. So today we're going to be talking about the XRM Toolbox. So one of my favorite tools ever. So again, my name is Mitch Milam. This is how you get a hold of me, email, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Again, go and subscribe to the YouTube channel strictly so that when I post the recordings, I don't always email immediately because I have to wait for Click Dimensions to catch up from GoToWebinar. So, but you'll get a notification if you subscribe to the channel. So always do that if you can. Again, everybody's muted. So what will happen is if you need to speak, just raise your hand, or you can always put a question in there. Oops, sorry about that. There we go. Thanks, Danny. Okay, if you're going to be in Nashville at the CRM UG Summit, I will be there. I'm teaching a class and doing a couple sessions. So if you're there, please look me up. It'll be should be a good time, good venue. Snapshot ships on Monday, so this is new version 4.5. So completely revamped documentation, templates, and everything like that. So I'm very excited to release that. So this is the I've had this tool for about 5 years or something like that. So it pulls everything out of Dynamics CRM 365 that is pretty relevant, and it's really cool things. So keep an eye out for that. I'll email everybody on Monday. Also, I'm finally getting ready to release my online courses. These are the courses that I usually teach in person or via the internet. So on Monday the 21st, so 2 weeks, I'm releasing JavaScript development. The week after that is plugin development, and the week after that is maintenance and troubleshooting. So if you're interested in any of these things, just drop me an email. It'll be great. Okay, so this guy, Tingy, is an MVP from France. He is the creator of XRM Toolbox, and he came up with a really cool idea when he was doing one of the revisions. And what he did is he created a framework for this tool. So he had these tools out there for many years, and they're really useful. And when he extended it into a framework, it really made a big difference to, I think, the whole Dynamics CRM world. So let's talk about the installation setup for real quick. So it's a free tool. You download it just by going to XrmToolbox.com and clicking the download button. It will unzip it and put it on your desktop or on your hard drive. When you open it up, the first thing it's going to do is display a box that has a list of all of the plugins. So these are plugins that Tingy wrote, that other people like Daryl mentioned earlier. He has written some. Hang on a second. People say they can't hear me. How about now? Is that better? How is this? Somebody tell me if this is better. Okay, great. So some people are having issues hearing me for some reason. Okay, so as I was saying, the first thing it does, and again, this is optional. There's a button here that says show on XRM Toolbox Startup. What this does is show you a list of plugins that are available to be downloaded. Okay, it does not download them all. So what happens is it has a base set that's downloaded than any ones you select. So all you do is you check the box, and then it will download and probably in most cases restart the XRM Toolbox. So as you can see here, there are 82 plugins currently, and there are 6 of these that have updates. So all you do is you check the box, tell it to install. It will actually download the plugin, and then it will start up. When you connect to Dynamics CRM or 365, there's 2 ways to do it. The first way is just putting in the organization URL and then your username and password, and it normally connects up. But if you have issues or you have a kind of a specific configuration, because there are, especially when you get into the IFD world, sometimes the connection is not easy to establish with the normal SDK method. So what he's done is allow you to type in a connection string. So this is found in the SDK and on TechNet as well. And so it specifies the username, the domain, the organization, etc. So you can type in the connection string, and they'll attempt to connect with that. Regardless of what happens, you can select to save this information as encrypted, which is normally what you do, so that you don't have to enter this information more than once. So this is what it looks like. So basically it just opens up, and again, this is a framework. So it opens up and it lists the tools, and they're in alphabetical order. And again, there's 82 of them. So once you open it up, you connect to your CRM system, and again, it supports however many connections you want for different systems. And then once you're connected, you just open the tool specifically to do the job that you're after. So that's how you install it and stuff. So it's mostly for administrators and developers. So there are tools for both. Most of the time I am using it, and we'll get into the things I use, is mostly for administration, and there's some stuff around development with XRM. There's a lot of things that are in here that I don't use at all. Again, he built it from the ground up to be extensible. So it is a framework. It has 30 plus plugins built into it, and the community has created another 50 plus. So again, the current count as of yesterday and today is 82. So that's how many that are out there, and it's not saying more are added every day, but it's they are added pretty frequently. So it gives us a singular interface. So what happened is, like I used to have back in the days of CRM 3.0 and 4.0, I had little utilities that did different things, and I would create a utility, and it just did one single purpose. Tingy was working on that as well, and what he did is he created this framework. Like I said, what I did is I went the PowerShell route with all of my stuff. So totally different way of doing it. His is actually, I think, better strictly because it's more user friendly and more people have access to it. So what it gives you is a singular interface, and anytime you open a tool, what it does is it opens up a new tab for that tool. Each tool has its own toolbar that has specific functionality for that tool, and generally you start by either loading entities or loading users or whatever you're working with. You click on that stuff, and then from there on, whatever the tool's designed to do is how you access it. So since it is a framework, the way that he's created the plugin store is actually the developer uploads their tool to NuGet. NuGet is a code repository that allows people to create code, put it up in a centralized place that people can, one, find it, and two, download and install it. Most of the time when we work with NuGet, we're working inside of Visual Studio. So for instance, the Dynamics platform team has created NuGets for all of the .NET assemblies that we use to do work with CRM and Dynamics 365. We download those and put them into our solutions we create using NuGet. So this is a really cool way of doing it. So there's a specific query it does whenever it starts up again with the plugin store. It automatically opens that box up, and then anytime that you start the system, the first thing it does is it goes and does a check to see if there is a new version available for both the Xrm Toolbox itself and also the plugin. So the Xrm Toolbox will pop a box up saying, hey, I've got a new version. Would you like to install it? If so, it will close the current version, download the new version, and restart. The plugins are shown in blue, as I showed you earlier, inside of the plugin store list that shows up. So that's how those are installed. But the idea here is you're always notified of new updates to either the tool or the plugins or both. Okay, so let's go look at some stuff. So again, here is the tool, and like I said, there's a lot of different things here. Most of the stuff that I use is actually administration related. So the kind of the one caveat to that is the XML Builder that Jonas wrote. So this is a way for you to actually perform queries against the CRM database without using advanced find or without writing an application. So as long as you can generate the XML, you have access to it. So what you do here is you can pull the XML out of advanced find, for instance, or you can write it by hand or pull it out of or whatever you might do. And then the idea here is it will actually open the XML and then execute it. And you can also edit it if you want. So we're having a problem right at the moment. So while we're working in this, one thing I want to kind of point out about the plugins and stuff is not all plugins are written to the same level. So sometimes there are issues with plugins, and it depends on how well it's written, how well it's maintained. That's another problem. Most of the people actually have GitHub repositories for their tool. Most of them are open source, not all. And then part of that is you can actually go out and file bugs and things like that. So sometimes a plugin will have an exception that will cause the tool to crash. That does happen quite frequently, quite honestly, but it depends on on what tool it is. So anyway, so in this case, what we're doing is we got a fetch XML statement. So what this does is allow us to do fetch XML without actually writing the XML, which looks like this. So here we're looking at bulk delete operations. If I execute this by just hitting F5, let me go kill that, delete that condition, delete that filter. It will go and give me a grid of data. So this is a way for me to very easily do stuff. So what I use this for is to actually perform a query to find out if there's something that I need inside the system that I don't have access to with Advanced Find. Many times what I use this for is for accessing entities that are not available via Advanced Find. So this is generally the system type of entities. So one of the things that we do with that is there's some entities that are not set up for Advanced Find that you as an administrator want to know about. So if you don't know Fetch XML, it would be probably good to have in your repertoire, strictly because it's useful. As you see here, this is a grid of data, but we can also look at the raw XML itself. So we have different options that we can do. And then what I like to do is, depending on the data that's coming back, as you can see here, we've got a lot of data here. So this is an XML packet. And as you can see, that's kind of hard to read. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually just show this in XML instead. Okay. And as you can see, it shows you your other columns as well. So this is the one that I use all the time. So this is the primary use that I have. Again, most of the other stuff that I use is related to administration and security. So if I go back up to the top here, just kind of go through this. Access Checker is one that I use quite frequently. Access Team integration allows you to do some stuff. This one here is kind of interesting. So this is the assembly recovery tool. So if you've been around CRM for any length of time, or your CRM system has been around for any length of time, there's a possibility that somebody wrote a plugin one time and installed it, and now you don't know where that plugin is, okay, or the source code for that. So this actually happened to me last year. I had a partner who had a consultant that wrote a series of plugins, and then she left the company, and they had no source control for any of the projects that they worked on for customers. So what happened is, I think they reformatted her laptop, and all the code that she had written went with it. So what I had to do is I had to reverse engineer the plugins. And the way that I did that was by using this tool to extract the plugin out. So what this did is it physically took this file, this plugin file, and it removed it, it copied it out of the database and created a DLL on the hard drive. From that point, I could decompile the DLL back into source code, and then from there I just kind of made it pretty again, and then fixed some issues and some design flaws and things like that. But this is a tool I use for that. I have my own version of this that I wrote a long time ago that I don't, it's not actually supported anymore. But this is really good if you get into that situation. So again, all this does is just copies the DLL out of the database and puts it on the hard drive. So that's really, really cool if you want to do that. So while we're here, always maintain control of your assets. If you're a customer and consultants do work for you, make sure you have a copy of the source code always. If you're a consultant, make sure that you put the source code somewhere. What I do is I spin up a Visual Team Services, which is a free account for less than 5 developers. I give them access to it, then I put all the code up there, and it's secure for me. Gives me versioning, etc., and a secure location to put it. And if they get mad at me, they still got the source code. I don't care. So there we go. Lesson learned. The bulk attribute updater is pretty interesting. A lot of this you can actually do within CRM itself now. So you can, let's see, go to the account. You can change the, is it available for advanced find, for auditing, secured, set the required level. So the idea here is you go and select these, then you select the ones at the top and hit update, and it will actually update the the attribute properties, and then you can also publish the entity from that point. So this is some of this is available from within the CRM interface, and that's another thing to remember is this tool has been around for a long time. So some of the plugins that are in here have been replaced with other features just directly out of the box. If you didn't know that. Nazir asked what product was I using to reverse engineer the DLL. It was just decompile from Telerik. That's what that was. Okay, so another one that I used, this is kind of interesting. So Daryl's on. Daryl wrote this really scary, cool tool called Attribute Manager. Daryl is smarter than me, and I like that. So what this allows you to do, among other things, is it will actually allow you to copy or convert from one data type to another data type. Because we've all done this somewhere or the other. We've actually made a bad decision. I made one last year sometime. I can't remember, but I remember making one bad decision last year, first time in forever. And sometimes that involves data, and sometimes you don't figure that out until later on. And so what this allows you to do is it will actually allow you to convert the attribute from one type to another type, hopefully without losing data. Daryl, do you want to say anything about your tool? Sure, hang on. Okay, let me find it. Where's Daryl? Okay, man, you're unmiked.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, cool. So yeah, this was born out of the necessity back in 2011 to migrate local option sets to global option sets. And since then, it's been extended quite a bit to do lots of other conversions as well. Always be very careful to remember what environment you're in. Are you in a managed environment or an unmanaged environment? And when you're doing that, if you're going to, if you have a dev environment and a production environment, and you've changed your attribute type in one environment, you need to rerun that tool in the next environment if you're an unmanaged solution. So that way, let's say you have a field that used to be a string, and you said, nope, it should really be a number. So you change it to a number, and then if you export that out in your dev environment, try to pull it into your prod environment, it's going to fail in the import of the solution. You have to rerun the tool in each environment that you're moving up the chain if you're doing that. Allows you to migrate the data, which can be actually it can be probably more pain than it's worth if you have a lot of data. If you've got 20,000 records, it's not too big of a deal. 30,000. If you start getting into the hundreds of thousands, the amount of time to go through and update all that data could really take a long time. So always make sure you test it in your dev environment first. But if you're in your dev environment, it's the best place to make changes in there, because, oh, I created this, I had the wrong name, I had the wrong capitalization, I had the wrong type, or hey, I don't need this anymore. It makes it so nice. You don't have to go through remove it from all the forms. You don't have to go through remove it from all the views. You don't have to go through remove it from the business process flows, all that kind of stuff. It just does all that for you. And the steps on the right there allow you to be able to say, hey, I got through this part and then something died. Let me start it again later. So if you get halfway through it, you're not stuck in some weird state. You can just continue on from whatever step you want to continue on. That's all I got.
All right, man. Thanks. I appreciate it, Daryl.
Well.
So yeah, so what he mentioned first, the option set one is the one that gets you. I can't tell you how many times that I walk into a situation at a customer where they didn't have a need to create a global option set. Now it doesn't really give you, it's not a tax for using global option sets that I've ever found, or that anybody else that I've ever talked to has ever found. So I'm not saying you should always create global option sets, but if there's any possibility of you sharing data, you need to do that, because I ran into a situation at a customer where we had 5 option sets and 3 of them were global because I created them, but or maybe 2 of them were global. The other 3 were created by the customer before I got there, and 1 of them got out of sync. And what happened when it gets out of sync is the value, the integer value and the literal value, the display value, are different in different systems. So what happens is when we got from one entity to the next entity, the value of the option set, the integer value was the same, but the textual representation was not. And what happened was it would show different data. Even though it was the same data, it would just look different. And that caused just a lot of concern. So using a tool like this would allow you to convert stuff like that. So this is probably one of the coolest tools in here, quite honestly. All righty. moving down. Here is one I haven't tried in a long time. So this allows you to do basically bulk form stuff, the name. So what this allows you to do is actually like change the name. So it allows you to basically, I've got the account name field on 3 different forms here. So what this is doing is allowing me to do things with like the attributes. So I can remove it from the form, add it to the form, change the label, change the label, hide the label, or update the label. I can lock it, make it read-only, change the visibility, or change how it's available on the phone. So what this is doing is, say you're in a redesign, is kind of where this comes into play, I think, the most. What it allows you to do is to actually make changes en masse to a field across all forms that you select. So you can do all the little things there. Because most of the time what it would be is, okay, I need to hide that, or I want to change the label or something, and I need to change it everywhere. Okay, so that's pretty cool for that. And again, it allows you to do it here, to the settings, you save that, and then you publish it, and it's all good to go. Here's one to allow you to perform calculations. So basically, you can actually run the bulk, run the calculated field or execute the calculated field, because remember, calculated fields are only calculated once every 24 hours. But if you will need to do it in mass, you can use this to do that with. Okay. Here is another one that I really like that I've used several times. So what I'm going to do with this is I've got, say, here's a test one there. I am going to run a workflow. So what it does is it gives me a list of on-demand workflows. So these are the ones with the checkbox that says run on demand. And it gives me a list of those, and then it knows what entity that it's based off of. So what it does is it allows me to set a view that I want to run this workflow against, or I can use a custom piece of Fxml to do the same thing. So here I am going to run on open opportunities, and it's just showed me, hey, here's what the fetch looks like. And what it does here is it allows me to set a batch size. So what it'll do is it will perform this fetch XML, retrieve all the records back, and then in batches of, as you see here, 200, it will run that workflow against that result set, one record at a time, in batches of 200, as you can see. Okay, and so what this allows you to do is, if you've got a lot of data that you're updating via a workflow, is you can create a special view for that. And then use that for the query itself, and then run this. So this is really, really cool. Okay, so I do that. Farhat told me not to forget the easy translator, so when I get down there, I'll do that. Okay, chart transfer tool that allows you to move charts across things. Clone field definitions. I haven't used this. This looks pretty interesting, but this allows you to actually, believe it or not, clone a field. Now, what's fascinating about it is it allows you to, let me bring up the contact. So it's only custom fields, of course. It allows you to clone a field, either the same entity or different entities, which I think is really cool. So that's pretty neat. So allows you to do that. So that's pretty handy. I've actually come across that a couple different times. Here's a record cloner, so you can actually specify a record you'd like to clone. Some exchange stuff here, exchange rates I haven't done. A couple different dashboard transfer tools people have written. Data export, data transport, so this pulls records across things. This is really good if you're using it to move data from one system to the other. You can use the tool that's built into the, what do they call that? The thing that's in the SDK. The package deployer, that works as well. Okay. So here is an interesting one. I haven't actually tried this one yet, but basically this will check the plugin steps between two environments. So what you would do is you would pick your source and your target, and then what it will do is it will look to see if you have the same plugin steps or different plugin steps. This is really useful if you have the sandbox or you have different deployments that you're working with, like a dev or stage or test or production, and you're trying to make sure that you haven't had an anomaly introduced somewhere, because that does happen. With solutions, not so much anymore, but at one point it was really easy for people to go and create stuff, plug-in steps manually, and that would cause us all kinds of problems. Okay, so here's one for working with document templates. Haven't used that one actually that much at all. Now, Raz created this. It's a duplication report for bulk merge. I have not done that. And Daryl has an early bound generator that generates code kind of like the other one does, or the one built into the SDK. This is interesting. The 360 view kind of just gives you a list of different things related to. Thanks. Let me bring that up. So basically, this just allows you to quickly see different parts of the that you may be working with, anything that's associated with it. So this is basically what this is. It's just a way to say, okay, I've got trying to build some intelligence on what we're doing with different things with an entity. So this allows you to just go and point, okay, here are my relationships. Here are my processes I've got for that. Here's my plugins, my security roles, etc. So that's a pretty useful one there as well. Okay. Oh, easy translator. I haven't done this at all strictly because I don't really work with multiple languages, but this allows you to actually export and import translations so that you can actually have either do it yourself or have a service do translations. So you specify what you want, you export it out, it creates an XML file, then you import it back in later. So that's pretty cool. Okay, if that's XML Builder we talked about. This is interesting. It's a record counter, so it will go and count the records. And oops, there we go. This is what I'm talking about. So we've encountered an error, so this will probably shut down the whole thing. So I'll have to start all kind of over again. We'll see if it actually recovers. No, it didn't. Okay, restart it. Like I said, when it starts up, it actually does that check I was telling you about. Then it will show me the plugin store, which I'm going to close since I don't need it. And I'll scroll back down to where we were. Oops, you know what? Yes. Basically, you have two ways to connect. The connection button at the top, or there's a drop-down list here on the toolbar. Okay, so form libraries. I was looking at this the other day. It's got some pretty interesting things. So it allows you to actually see what your libraries that you use on specific entities. Let's see, Doug has a question here. Let me read that. Oh, he brought to, yeah, he uses Andy Popkins' bulk workflow against Jason Latimer's attachment remover. Very useful. That was a good thing. So basically, what he's talking about is using the bulk workflow executor. Jason Latimer has a custom workflow activity that allows you to remove attachments from emails. So if you create a workflow that does that, and then use create a custom view and then execute the workflow against the custom view, you can actually trim up your the issues you have. That's a really good use because I actually wrote a program to do that one time, believe it or not. Strictly because we had a customer that had somebody, they were online, and then one of the sales guys sent out an email to all their customers about the golf tournament they are having with this image on it, and it filled up their CRM Online system. So we had to go in. I literally created a view that said, okay, show me any emails with an attachment of X number of bytes exactly. And then I saved that, and then retrieved it just like the tool's doing, and then ran a delete, basically a delete on any of the MIME attachments of that. So that basically, I literally took me about a day to write that all told. I just modified one of my programs that I have. And I could have done it in probably 1/10 of the time and wouldn't have to write any custom code. It's all done out of the box, so that's really cool. So it just shows you where your scripts are and things like that. So it's good to have. Form parameter manager. This is if you're passing parameters to forms. This is a development thing, so you can actually pass parameters to forms that you can pull out with JavaScript. So I've done that on a couple of different occasions. Bulk assigner I haven't used. Looks pretty interesting. User creator is for on premises if you're creating user within CRM. Online is totally done differently. Marketing list management. My friend Marco wrote. What this does is actually kind of interesting. If you've never noticed, when you have a dynamic marketing list, it doesn't show you how many users you have. Whereas if you have a static marketing list, it keeps a count. So what this does is actually counts up how many how many members of marketing list you have. So they're over on the right hand side. As you see, I got a bunch of zeros because I got a bunch of stuff that's not populated, but then I'll have some, there's 12 there, and there's some has data in it. So this is just a quick way to see where your stuff is. Okay, Metadata Browser is pretty cool. So this just allows you to see at a glance all of the metadata for an entity, as you can see. And what it will do when if you open one and say open a web app, it'll actually open that definition up for you. Document generator. So this will actually allow you to create documentation. So that's like a snapshot light. So I've got the heavy duty snapshot documentation tool. This is the light version of that. So if you need to pull some quick documentation out, that's pretty cool. Personal views I haven't used, but allows you to share personal views. So basically you select the view and the user, and it allows you to clone those things or share them between people. This plugin registration tool is actually kind of interesting. This is back a long time ago. They actually shipped the plugin registration tool as code that you had to compile, and then they got away from that. But this is a version that they've done to actually fit inside of the XRM Toolbox. So it's pretty cool. Plugin trace viewer is actually pretty fascinating. So what this allows you to do is actually look at, there's a plugin trace log that you could turn on with Dynamics 365, and it will track either all occurrences of stuff or exceptions only. So what it allows you to do is actually look at what, it will actually look at different things that you're doing. So this is used by developers to see if they've got issues with their code. So if you change it, and this is a system setting, if you change it to exception only, it will record the plugins anytime that an exception occurs. If you set it to all, like I have right now, what it does is anytime a plugin runs, it keeps a record of it. And what's shown over here is what actually happened. So here's the list here. Here's how long it ran. Here's the type of the operation. Here's the name of it. Here's the step that was done. As you see, I'm filtering it on the Click Dimensions contact plugin. So this is actually pretty useful if you're just trying to get a normal view of that. So basically what happens is this is viewable within CRM, but what this allows you to do is actually do queries and kind of filter it down, because if you're pulling a lot of data or you're capturing a lot of data, sometimes it's hard to figure this stuff out. So this is useful for that. Okay, so that's a really cool thing from Jonas and his friends. Okay, Power BI option set assistant. So I haven't played with that, but what that is option sets come across for Power BI as just numbers, because that's what they are in the database. This allows you to actually, it creates a entity that you can pull in where it will associate the integer to the string value. And this is what CRM does normally, but they're stored in a table that's kind of hard to get to. It's called the string map table, and that's where that stuff is stored. Privileges discovery, I actually like this a lot. This is part of the diagnostics that I run sometimes if I'm having a trouble and don't know what an issue is or what's being caused. So like if I have, let's see what is one that is good, or send as user. What about merge? So what this allows you to do is select a privilege, and then when you click that display roles, that match selection, it will show what roles, what security roles have this privilege turned on. So this is really handy because if you have a lot of security roles, somebody went kind of crazy or something, you're trying to figure out where something is happening, it can actually point to you pretty quick. Let's see what else I use. So that's cool there. Recycle bin I haven't used. Reduce space storage so you can delete different things. Ribbon workbench. This is the standard ribbon workbench that everybody uses to modify the ribbon. So what this is a version that fits within this tool so that you don't have to use the solution version of it. Role replicator will replicate a role. Role updater is kind of interesting. It's a little bit clunky to use sometimes, but basically it allows you to actually take a role and specify different privileges, and then you can actually add that or change it. So that's kind of useful. Script Finder finds client events, things like that. This one I have not tried yet. So the principal object access table, this is where all security is recorded within the system. They call it the POA table for short. So what happens with this is anytime that you create a record with CRM, it has security applied to it. The POA table is the one that actually creates it or maintains that data. Anytime you share a record, that data is recorded inside the POA table. The POA table can create situations where you have performance issues because of, say, oversharing or something like that. Okay, so this is a way to, like I said, I've never used this. So let's go retrieve entities and let's go find out together. How about that? Account, active accounts. Not know. Okay, so basically this is going out and finding, okay, I have got these three entities are owned by this, and then they're shared with, that is a team, and then that is a user, as you can see. So this is the access level. So that number is basically, it's a masking, so that's added stuff together. So basically probably what you're seeing is they couldn't decipher it. Here's the inherited access, and then what date it was shared on. So this is pretty interesting. I can see this being useful because the biggest thing with sharing, if you guys have never noticed, is it's not recorded anywhere. So you share, a user shares something with somebody, and you, the administrator, have no control over that. In fact, it happens all the time where somebody will share something and then leave the company, and then somebody wants to do something with that. Well, they can't because that user's record has been deleted. You'll probably never, ever able to pull that back out again. It's just kind of the way it works. Okay, sitemap editor. So this allows you to edit the sitemap if you don't have any other tools. So this is it's a pretty standard way of doing it. So basically, it just gives your sitemap in a tree view, and then you can change the areas, the groups, and the sub areas. So as you can see here, this has languages and the titles and privileges, etc. So this is pretty handy. Solution history displays history for whenever you install a solution. So this is pretty interesting. Haven't actually played with it that often. Just other than that. Let's see, what else have I used? Sync filter manager. So this is useful if you need to update the synchronization. I don't think I have anything loaded. Maybe I do. Okay, so these are the filters that are used by Outlook to filter records. So these are just defaults for offline, defaults for Outlook, data group, user offline, so things like that. If you had custom ones that users have created, it would be here listed here. So this is a way of giving you a centralized thing. This is kind of interesting. So synchronize event loading. What this does is if you have synchronous plugins, they have a thing called an execution order, and that is literally the order that CRM will execute that plugin step. The default is 1, which means everything happens at the same time. And the problem with that is you don't know what actually is going to get answered. So here is one of CRM's plugins for activity feeds, and as you can see, they're all ones. So this causes problems because sometimes plugins get very, very upset when people execute before them, or they do something to the data stream or something like that. So if you run into a situation, especially with custom plugins, where you're getting very odd errors, and when you turn off a plugin, the errors go away, but they're not really code related, what you can do is play with the execution order so that certain plugins execute before others. So a lot of times what you'll do is you'll leave the normal plugin for 1, and then maybe a secondary plugin you have set to 99, so that it's kind of at the end of the list. So this is kind of interesting here. So this is a way to do. You could do this within the plugin registration tool. The problem is you have to open up each individual step and see this. So this allows you to edit it without doing that. So this is pretty handy. I can see this being used in several different places. And like I said, it doesn't happen that often, but it does happen often enough to where you have to kind of pay attention to it if you're the administrator or the developer. Here's another one that I use all the time. So this is the user settings. So as you know, there are settings that are personal options for a user that are only editable by the user. This allows you to fix that. So what this does is it takes the common settings that we have and allows us to do a bulk update on all the personal options. So one of them, the most dangerous setting within CRM, is, hey, when I get a new email, I want you to create me a contact for that. Okay, that's the thing. We go turn that to off. No. And then I select my users, and then I click the go button, and that will actually write that change out. Okay, so there are several things here, as you can see, that you can do, and this is how we typically do it. Roles Manager is another one for editing, bulk editing roles. This is a security report, that's fine. View Designer, where is the View Transfer? That's to transfer views over. Where is, okay, View Layout Replicator. I have used this. This is a really, really cool tool. It's very, very dangerous, though. You've got to understand what you're doing. So what this allows me to do is to take a view, say active accounts, and this is what the active account looks like. And now I would like to go to these here, and I would like to copy this and replace the view that you defined here with the data that came out of active accounts. Okay? Some views don't like this when you do this operation. There are some that have some special stuff. I haven't used this in a long time, but I kind of got bit by it one time. Because some of the views have special criteria set up for them or something special about them. Mainly, I think maybe the quick find views was a problem. And the idea here is, see, a lot of times what I'll do for a company is we have our standard active accounts and my active accounts. So those are there. Then I have customers, partners, vendors, etc. So creating views by hand is a lot of work and kind of a waste of time. So what I do is I go and I set up my active accounts to be exactly the way I want to see it. And then I go and create the others just as I just go and create them. Literally just give it a name, save it, and quit. Okay, and then do that 5 times. Setting the criteria, of course. And then what I will do is I will go and actually use this tool to copy these down. And so it replicates the layout. So that's how I use that. And that way I don't have to spend, an hour or two opening views and adding columns and stuff like that. All I do is I copy the layout, change the filter criteria, change the sort, whatever it might be, and save it, and I'm done. So it really, really saves your time. Glenn says the view replicator is worth its weight in gold, but yes, it's dangerous. And so it saved tons of time over the years. It saved me a lot of time. And when they first came out with this is a tool he probably did. Oh Jesus, it was I don't know, back in the early 2000s, maybe a little bit, no, not 2000s. After that, 2010 or something like that. I bet somewhere in that range. So probably CRM version 4, I think. So really, really handy. So I really like this tool. Okay, a couple of the others. Here's a web resource manager. So I use a tool called XrmToolbox Toolkit to do development with. It's an add-in for Visual Studio. If you don't have something like that and you would like to be able to edit outside of CRM your web resources, that's what this thing. So it's Web Resources Manager. And what it will do is it will physically download and write on disk your files. So if I have JavaScript that I'm editing, if I don't want to use Visual Studio for whatever reason it might be, I can actually edit with this tool. So let me go find something here. This is old code. Don't worry about it. This is crazy CRM 4.0 code that I uploaded a long time ago as a test for my conversion program. So what this allows me to do is I can physically edit this, as you can see, and then basically push it back up to CRM. And a lot of people use this if they're not developers and they don't want to have Visual Studio or they don't have access to Visual Studio. This will allow you to do that. Okay, so this is really handy. So what else is in here? User Security Magnified. I think I played with it this morning. This just shows you what your security is. I think the presentation could be a little bit better, but that's just my opinion. So anyway, so lets you see that I have 2 security roles, and this is the ones for each one. So as you hover over the privilege, it will show you which privilege it is. Okay, so that was pretty quick, I know. What did I miss? What favorite tool did I miss from you guys? Anything? Nothing? Okay. Well, anyway, so like I said, this is a really handy set of tools. Like I said, I have it open almost all the time because I'm doing something where I need it. So like I said, there are 4 or 5 I use on a really frequent basis, and then there are others that are here if I need them. RecordCounter. Okay, yeah, RecordCounter. Samuel, anything on duplicate workflows or BPF? No, I don't think of anything like that. Kanika says use the many-to-many tool for updating many relationships. That's interesting. I haven't played with that one. It's up here somewhere. Manage. Okay, so this allows us to manage our relationships. That's pretty cool. What else? What else is loading? A tool asks, is there any tool to copy data from one entity record to a new one? I don't know about that. Does anybody know about that? Nazir asks, can you use this for 2013 or 2015? Yes, there are versions for all of those, if I'm not mistaken. This version should work with those, quite honestly. So the SDK is downward compatible, so there may be features that are not compatible, but the tool is compatible. JShy solution transfer tool, that's good. Go solution transfer tool. Let's go back down here. Oops. I think this is basically just the ability to transfer a solution from one location to another location. So basically what you're doing is you're instead of exporting it out to a zip file, it's just doing the work for you is all it's doing. So it's the you can programmatically import a solution. So that's probably what they're doing here. They're just exporting it out. You specify your target environment here, which is the other CRM organization. You specify how it should handle what's inside. These are the same exact questions that the export process asks, and then the import process itself, and then it just does it for you. So that's what that does. So that's pretty cool. So Glenn says, yeah, about yeah, the record counter actually allows you to count records, because sometimes people actually want to know that. So where's the record counter? There somewhere. It's up here. Or fetch or something. There we go. Yeah, so the fetch XML record view record counter basically will give you a count of records, which is actually useful because, like I said, people do actually want to know that. And what Glenn brought up is basically the UI just we say it's to 5,000 plus, which does nobody any good at all. So sometimes you actually want to do that. Yeah, I asked about the duplicate detection tool. Let's see, where was that? I haven't actually played with this at all. Oh, so basically it does bulk. Basically, this is used to do bulk merges. So that's interesting. So I haven't played with that at all, quite honestly. Has anybody else played with the bulk with the duplication report bulk merge? Field asked about the privilege discovery tool. Can you modify the permissions? Yeah, I think that's what it's for, quite honestly. Tell you what, I'm gonna close out this stuff. There is the discovery, I think, may just show it to you, but there are other tools that allow you to change it, so that's not a problem. Hassan asked about the duplicate text. I haven't used it, quite honestly, so I really can't answer that. Andre asked about all my webinars are put on YouTube. So just like I said, go subscribe to my YouTube channel and you'll get a notification later today. And then as soon as everything comes out, I'll email everybody. One of the things I did do, I forgot to mention, is I took a list of all the plugins and I put a classification category on it on what I think it's used for. So basically it's administration, customization, development, and security. It are the five things that I came up with. So I'll email that, or I'll put it up on my website, and that will be emailed to everybody as well. Okay, what else? All righty. Well, I think that's it. So hey, I really appreciate everybody's time today. And if anything else pops up, give me a shout. Let me know. Thanks a lot, everybody.